Welcome to the TomorrowZone Catalyst Podcast. I'm your host, Deborah Reuben. Today, we're diving into a conversation that speaks to the heart of high performance and human-centered leadership. What if the missing link between burnout and breakthrough isn't doing more, but being more of you? Author and speaker Hilary Bilbrey is joining me today to explore the inspiration behind her new awesome book, The Authenticity Key, and to challenge us to get curious about who we really are and how we want to show up, both in work and in life. So just a little bit about Hilary. This is her second time back on our show. She's a great friend. She's a speaker and a peak performance consultant. She serves a wide range of clients spanning from startups to Fortune 200 companies. And she has a new Amazon bestselling book. So proud of you. So excited
Thank
for you. In her book, The Authenticity Key, Claim Your Words, Set Your Compass, Blaze Your Trail, she offers a strengths-based approach to self-leadership for high achievers. So we're going to hear more about that and the inspiration behind it. Hilary, welcome back to the show.
Deb, it is such an honor to spend any time with you, let alone on your podcast, but just even walking and having real conversations as we've done for years. I feel like this is just another one of those.
Yeah, I've really been looking forward to this and I'm just so excited to catch up with you. So what inspired you to write The Authenticity Key?
You know, there's two sides to it, both professional and personal, I'd say. It began personal. Anybody who knows my story from way back when, if you don't, look it up. I won't spend 30 minutes telling it now. But a point in my life about 20 years ago where, I nearly died and both of my sons nearly died. And in that, coming out of it, I felt really lost and didn't know how to reconnect in the world. Couldn't find the words to even describe how to reconnect in the world and how to find myself again. And as I started on that journey, realized I never really knew how to define myself anyway. I was being defined by the rest of the world, not by who I was at a heart level. So as I continued on that journey, I saw it also in my professional world as well, even high achievers that were moving the goalposts on themselves and basing their success on all the extrinsic. And it was never enough and creating anxiety in so many other places. So as I was walking my journey and simultaneously seeing the same patterns in my clients, this book was sort of born from that.
I'm just a few chapters in so far, but I can see that. I think it's really important to figure out how to define yourself. I remember in my past going through a time where it felt like I was being defined by everyone else but me. So what a powerful thing to help people connect with that.
I appreciate that so much because I think we forget, and I say this, if a job ends or you don't get a promotion or a marriage ends or your kids move out of the house or whatever it is, the picture of life changes. But who you are, if you're rooted to who you are, you're still anchored to the foundation and it helps you show up in every aspect of your life. But boy, without understanding and taking the time to define that, you can just feel pulled in so many different directions.
Yeah. And in a world that's moving so fast, that becomes harder and harder if you can't get on top of it. So you work with a lot of very high performing professionals and leaders. Why do you think so many of them are struggling with self-doubt or disconnection like this?
I would say there's probably two reasons. I mean, there's more than two reasons, of course, but the two things that come to mind. First is if you're a high performer, the very definition of high performer is you have been rewarded for the extrinsic things, the next award, the next raise, the next promotion, and so on. And without stopping that sort of merry-go-round, you end up still, okay, that's the next thing I chase, the next thing I chase. And then when you have found that is the way you're getting your Scooby snacks, your dopamine hits, then what happens is you go, oh, well, if I reevaluate that, now that becomes scary. So number two is the fear. if I don't define success by these metrics, if I don't define who I am by these metrics, will I even achieve them? Will I achieve less? So there's a fear, and it's super counterintuitive. The funny thing is the more grounded you are in who you are and you feel enough, you actually take more risks and find more success. And I find that people who are high achievers that haven't taken the time to do this are probably leaving a good 20% of their performance on the table. So it's really counterintuitive, but when you are able to take a breath and say, this is who I am, because this is who I am, I show up with excellence and so on, your achievement grows without feeling like you're chasing a never-ending unworthiness, goalpost.
This got me thinking about the power of commitment too, because in this work, you're kind of stepping back to define yourself for yourself, but then also commit to living that out. I mean, you've got me thinking even since I started reading your book. So you called your book The Authenticity Key, and a lot of people are talking about authenticity these days, which I think is really important. It's come up a lot for me too, because we are surrounded by synthetic and artificial. It's like all the buzz. So how do you define authenticity? And how can people begin to recognize if they might be out of alignment with that?
That is such a great question. And it doesn't mean authenticity doesn't mean, well, I woke up cranky and I'm going to show up cranky and be a jerk to everybody I meet. And some people will say that, well, that's authenticity. My belief is that authenticity is when you make the decision about who you are when you're at your best and how you want to show up. And then you also become responsible for doing what you need to do in self-care to show up that way, including maybe not showing up if you're not that way. Or at least being honest about it, because I think sometimes people use authenticity as an excuse to get really messy, to overshare, to cross boundaries, to be a jerk, all of those things. And that is not taking ownership over your own emotional regulation. So I see authenticity as really being able to have the discernment of who you are, how you want to show up, and how you want to leave others feeling, not because you're manipulating, but because when you're at your best self, that's who you are. And your red flags that you're drifting are pretty clear, because you're going to feel drained in conversations. You're going to be frustrated at work. You're going to feel like you say yes and you don't really like saying yes to what you're saying yes to. You're going to feel anxiety and second guessing yourself. All those things are indicators and red flags. Something here is out of alignment with a core value that I have. And you can't figure that out unless you've defined those core values.
And I need to get through the work of what you've written in your book to define this for myself. But it reminds me of being committed to operating in my greatest strengths, which is something that I did when I was forming the company back in the day, because one of the things I realized was, there are a lot of things that I can do. But just because I can do them doesn't mean that I should, because I'm not a happy person when I'm playing that role.
That's right. I love that you said that. And that's, what's interesting, and my partner, Sonia, in Peak Performance, Sonia Montiel, said this earlier today. She said, authenticity is not a noun, it's a verb. Because it is, the good news is any single day of your life is another opportunity to check in with yourself. It's not one time and done. To check in and to ask yourself, am I showing up the way that I want to? Do I need to tweak things? Not because you're not enough, but because every day you have more experiences, more intuition around how it is you do want to show up.
I love the positive intent behind all of this, because there's so many things that come at us that are all about you're not enough, something's broken in you, and this is about finding what's right about you.
I think that's so true. Is you can get through anything when you start to go back to what is important to you. You start learning what you need to unbecome and what you need to become. Right, all in those growth moments. But again, you're not broken. You have the opportunity if you choose to grow more in alignment.
Love it. So you talk about the authenticity compass in your book, and I haven't gotten there yet. So can you kind of walk us through what that is and how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. So, to me, when I think about, I love outdoors. I love hiking. I love blazing new trails.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a mountain, I need to climb it. And so it seemed like a really natural fit to start to think about, well, how do I know what direction to go in when I'm hiking? Well, I follow, and it's really funny. This shows my age. I actually used to use a compass. And of course now we have our cell phone. So I did have someone who read it and said to me, I don't know how you set a compass because I've only ever used my cell phone and had the GPS. So I was like, oh my gosh, of course. So for those of you who are on here who have never seen a compass before, it actually has it has a magnetic pull to your true north. And that magnetic pull can get out of alignment. So you have to make sure that it's tuned up all the time in order to make sure you're headed in the right direction, just like you do your life. So rather than having a north, south, east, west, you think about, if I'm showing up as my best version of myself, what is my true north? For me, it's integrity, right? So what does integrity look like for me? So you create not only the direction. So for me, it's integrity, it's service, it's a sense of wonder, it's a sense of joy. What are those words, those things that when I'm here, doesn't exclude all of the other things, but I know I'm showing up as my best self. If I'm not leaving other people better, I know I haven't shown up as myself that day, because that's a core principle for me. So that's what I mean by that. And then you create this legend or this key. The key is, yes, it unlocks things, of course, but the key really is meant to be like a legend on a map. So if you see the things on, the directions, if you say curiosity is one of my guiding principles, but you don't say what that looks like, it doesn't matter. So it invites you to not only think about the key things that you are absolutely non-negotiable, you're going to show up this way, and what does it look like for you in practice?
I'm still like, I love the way that you chose to use the word key. That it's not just a key that unlocks, but it's a key that guides you to meaning.
Absolutely.
That's so cool.
Thank you. Thank you. Because it's true. What respect looks like for me might be different than you. What joy looks like for me is different than you. Service, all of those things. So I'm going to move the goalpost on myself if I define it by what you say it is. So for me, service specifically, there's I want to say selfish element to it, but I know it's not quite the right word, a self-serving, whatever it might be. I know in my darkest moments in life, I want to hide. And it is a natural place for me to go. And I learned that from what I went through. And so service for me is the call to action to put me into purpose on purpose, so that I don't hide, but instead use whatever is happening to me in life to make sure good things happen in the world again. And that is what allows me to show up as who I want to be. Otherwise, I know that the natural instinct is, Netflix and turn off all the lights, and I want to hide. And you know what? There are days like that too, but that it's a battle cry for me.
I think that is such a cool concept. First of all, just the authenticity compass, and just realizing that it's not a set it and forget it kind of thing, that idea of continual tuning so that you do stay the course. So, as you're working with folks, what's an example of a shift that you've seen in someone's life or in their leadership when they truly started showing up as their authentic self?
One of my really core values is, of course, being trustworthy. And so when I work with my clients, I try to keep their stories really private. So even the stories in the book are changed to protect that they really happened, but I maybe put two people together or changed genders or something just to make sure no one felt called out. Mm-hmm. But as I think about what you're asking, there is a pattern, there's a shift. And it's my favorite one that I see across the board when I do this with clients. And it is, they come back to me and they say, wow, everyone around me is changing. Like, tell me more. So one of the companies that I work with, they call me a trust catalyst. and they bring me.
Oh, I love that.
Me too. I love it. And they named me. I did not name, and I've been working with them for about 4 years. So they'll bring me in particular when there's a team where there's some trust issues going on. And usually that means everybody's pointing fingers at the other person. But the fact of the matter is when someone doesn't trust, if I don't trust you, Deb, the first person I need to look at is me. It probably means I don't trust myself. And so when you get clear on who you are and are confident with how you show up, the energy around you shifts and people feel less anxious. You set the temperature of the room. You don't become the temperature of the room. And then all of a sudden, people interact with you in a whole new way. And you're like, wow, this is really working. And it's like, no, you're really working.
So if you consider new leaders, you talked about how authenticity isn't all about just an excuse to let it all hang out. And there may be emerging leaders that are listening. And so what would be your advice for a new leader who might be navigating that balance between being real and being respected, and as they're trying to live into this authenticity?
I love that question. And, 3 things come to mind. And the first is take the time to decide who you want to be as a leader and what your values are going to be, so that 5 minutes before you get on a meeting, how do you want to leave people feeling? When you go on client site, how do I want to leave people feeling? When you show up to an industry event, how do I want to leave people feeling? And that you then take the responsibility. And this is usually one of the biggest takeaways that I see in leaders. They're shocked when I say your self-care is not an option. Your self-care, if you don't sleep, if you don't eat, if you don't do all those things and you show up and you are crabby, that is a detriment. You're setting the culture for your company. So taking care of yourself is a non-negotiable so that you can emotionally regulate and set the tone. So number 1 is knowing. And then making sure that you also are transparent about that with your team. Number 2 is setting a team compass. I call it community agreements, but decide together. How are we going to communicate? How are we going to build trust? And I actually think this is one of the most important things, and most people don't do it. Decide how you will rebuild trust, because we are human. So we will always break trust accidentally, however it might be. So having the discussion ahead of time, when something happens, because it will, we're human, how will we rebuild trust? It's really essential. And then just last but not least, be honest, but with tact. Really, you can do that. I think that it was Adam Grant who says, polite is not saying something today to spare someone's feelings. Kind is saying something with tact in order to help them get better tomorrow. So whether it's I screwed up or it's you screwed up, but I'm here for you, whatever it is, you can be honest, but take the time to do it with tact so that nobody's defenses come up. And especially if you've done that number 2 and number 1, you've taken care of yourself and you know how you want to show up and you know how you're going to communicate as a team and you're guided by those principles, those conversations become easier.
I know that this whole book writing process has been, quite a journey for you. And we were just talking before we hopped on the show about how, I know that this is something you've been working on before you even intentionally put a pen to a page, because you've been living this for so long. What surprised you the most during your own authenticity journey?
That is such a great question. And I think it probably is, when you're in the moment, whatever your normal is normal. And so until I had been on this journey for a while and looked back, I didn't realize how much anxiety I was living with, how much ruminating, how much second guessing, how much, you leave the party and you instantly, did I say this wrong? Did I do this wrong? Did I talk too much? Was I too much? Was I too little? Blah, 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 and it just goes. And then you go to sleep and 1 o'clock in the morning, that saboteur comes out in your head and reminds you of all the idiotic things you did during the day and not knowing the right step to take and holding myself back and fear and all of that. And I look now, and I don't always get it right, but I know where to go back to. So there's a calm and a peacefulness and a confidence that I'm at least trying to get it right, and that I have literally calendared those moments to look back weekly and say, all right, am I in alignment? How am I feeling? Where could I have done better? Do I owe anyone an apology? And all of that has allowed me to let go of things faster, to feel proud of how I show up, to make sure I've made amends the best that I can. And also to know when it's someone else and not me. Not everyone has done this work. Not everyone is showing. Some people are showing up gaslighting or manipulating or whatever. And so it allows you to not second guess and say, okay, I'm showing up this way, and anything else, this is not mine anymore. So I would say that is the gift and the surprise in all of this for me has been the fact that I can take a breath and not feel like I have to throw, as my grandma would say, the baby out with the bathwater as far as personality or whatever else. Nope. Just have a little recalibration day today.
That is so cool. I'm curious. So you mentioned that you're actually calendaring your experience. So are you journaling or something? Like what is your practical approach to that?
I used to journal it, and now I don't. Now it's just a moment. I always do it on a Sunday. And on a Sunday, I'll look ahead to what's going on in the week, where my opportunities are. But then I'll also look back and I'll say, if I think about, and I just sort of have a conversation with myself. But if I were starting this, I would start out by saying, where last week do I look at this and feel like I had challenges? And where might I need to grow because of it? And what was really successful and why was it successful? And asking myself that on a weekly basis allows me to recalibrate in real-ish time rather than, and it's sort of, now it's just an instinct. I've done it for so long, but I had to be very, very purposeful about writing it down at first.
I like that. That's something that we practice at TomorrowZone as a team. We do regular reflections like that, where we're not about like our personal stuff, but whenever we're doing something new that we're working on, intentionally taking time to look back at, what worked really well, and actually capturing those wins has been really powerful. But then looking honestly at what could have been better and how do we want to think about this for the next time has allowed us to roll years and years of learning into everything that we do. And so, in a work context, we're doing that. But I love the thought of doing it related to this personal work as well.
Well, who you are should be who you are, right? And there is, one of the chapters is this alignment piece where you go into every aspect and look at it. And the same thing, you want to leave your family, your husband, your wife, your friends. Did I leave them better than I found them? Or did I dump on them? Right. And so all of it is an opportunity. And again, this doesn't mean you have to be perfect in every aspect. But again, if you're not being who you want to be in every aspect, why not? And is it the self-care? Is it you're not with the right person? Is it you're not allowing yourself peace to fill up, or whatever it might be? But I think it allows you to ask the question why, and then move to the question how.
So, Hilary, where can people learn more about you and the wonderful work that you do?
Well, thank you for asking. You could either go to hilarybilbrey.com or otherwise peak-performance.com. And either of those have some great information. And at the moment, the book is only available on Amazon, or if I happen to be coming to workplaces. I just worked with Boston Scientific and they ordered books. So when I came and was working with their company, they also bought books. So I bring bulk from me, but otherwise it's only available on Amazon at the moment.
Okay, awesome. Well, I encourage everyone to check out this book. It's a really good read and it's going to make you think. Hilary, is there any last words you want to leave with folks?
Yes, I would. I think the thing that is really important to me when I talk to people is this sense of imposter syndrome. And I just am not worthy and too much and all of the feelings. It seems to really resonate. And the thing that I love to say, and I hope your listeners will take on, is that we don't fake it until we make it. We practice it until we become it. And so when you do this process, it's an opportunity to know what practice looks like for you. It's not about faking it. And that's where authenticity comes from.
Well, we're going to wrap with that. Hilary, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for your time. Having conversations with you is always such a fun little place to play.
Yeah, I can't wait until our next walk together and somewhere awesome. To our listeners, if today's conversation sparked something in you, I encourage you to check out Hilary's new book, The Authenticity Key. It's a powerful guide to rediscovering who you are and living it out loud. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, stay curious and choose to make awesome happen.